Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Quake Pro League. We're moving into week 8 of the show this time around here in stage 3. I'm back in the driving seat, and I'm joined by the best passenger a boy could ever ask for. He's lethal by name and lethal by nature. Harry, how you doing, mate?
Not too bad. Thank you for the intro, Jack. Yes, it should be another great week of Quake, and there should be some great matches along the way as we go forward.
I'd hope so. I'd hope so. We've been in for a treat over this season, I'd say. We've definitely had quite a few competitive upsets that have been thrown in there. Some of the players that we were hoping to see start to push their way up the standings have done so. Players like Saigib that have started doing some trailblazing, Harry. So it's been a good stage so far.
It has been, to say the least. We've seen a few players on form as well. Like before, we always sort of spoke about their consistency. Sometimes they're doing okay, sometimes they're not. And it happens a lot online, but we've seen players like Tox and Cypher. They're really showing what they're really capable of compared to what we've seen in previous stages.
Oh, yeah. It's great to see, as you said, especially with Sci-Fi. Lovely seeing that man back on top. Let's have a look at the games we will actually have coming up tonight, though, as we can start to break them down a little bit more in depth and lay some of the storylines you viewers at home will be excited to see, Harry.
Definitely. We've got Haron versus Tox. That would be the one to start off with. And Haron really needs to try and get some wins underneath his belt at this point in time. But against a Tox who's just doing so well, and he's so on form, and he's been just, a breath of fresh air, you could say, so to speak, because Tox has just been doing really well the last few weeks. So we have to see if his consistency pulls through and carries on as normal. Xanaku's still trying to find his stride at the moment, but Saigib's going to most probably give him some problems. But Saigib has also had his ups and downs. But another one, Avik versus Sparty, another great match to see. And Sparty was doing really well during the first few weeks, but kind of fallen off a little bit as we head into the later stages of the weeks.
He has. Yeah, hopefully we can see a little bit of resurgence coming out from it. This was going to be Effortless versus Dramus. Dramus is up now at 15th place, starting to get a little bit more upwards momentum. But it really is Saigib out of those first four that I've got to look at in 8th place now. Really been climbing up the standings, doing an awful lot for North America. And Tox, as you mentioned as well, 10th place, Harry. That is startling. For the man that we would question his form week in, week out, he's now started to put those doubts to bed.
Yeah, it's quite interesting to see. It's quite weird compared to before, like from what we've seen from Tox. But this stage, it's like he's a completely different person. It was the Tox we used to know and love back in the day, and has really shown his true form going into the stage 3 finals. And even in the stage 3 finals, it'd be great to see how he actually progresses going forward to continue to show that consistency. And Cypher, again, slowly on the rise bit by bit, but we've got a thing at the bottom of the table as well. Xanaku is still struggling, and it's going to be very hard for him to come out of the woodwork at this point in time.
And with our next 4 games we'll have coming up tonight, of course, Dewey versus Sib. 17th place. It's not ideal for the man that actually showed his worth when he was in Poland, Harry. He seemed like he was really up for the challenge, was trying to reinvent himself going into this stage. And it's unfortunate we haven't seen that yet. There's still time, but it's really crunch time at this point.
It really is. At this point in time, he has to do something. He's got a very defensive style, and we'll have to see what he can do going forward. But even then, with players like Kilson as well, just an absolute fragging mastermind, still staying on top. And even when he gets against Cypher later on, that's going to be a doozy of a match to see.
Oh, it will be. I think those games there, game 6 and game 7, as you said on Twitter, Harry, these are going to be the big boys, the pièce de résistance of the day. Definitely come back for those if you're planning on only seeing a couple of the games on Quake Pro League tonight. And finally, running it out with Rafa versus Nosfa. We always end it on a high note with the big man himself, don't we?
Oh, of course we do. Yeah, with Nosfa, he's known for his extreme aggression, great aim skill. But Rafa, he can control a lot of people, even if they're super defensive or super aggressive. I think he does prefer the aggressive matchups. The only thing with Nosfa is that even though he's very good with his movement and his gun skill, the only thing that lets him down a little bit is his, he can be quite predictable. And if Rafa sees that, then he's going to be all over him at that point.
Oh, he will be. Rafa the Rash, mate. He does not mess about if you give him an opening. Let's check out the standings, though, where, as per usual, you'll immediately see the gem at the top there with 419 points is Rafa, still firmly in first place, about 100 points ahead of the competition, closely followed up by Kilson, the best of Europe, still trying to prove that he is Harry.
Yeah, Kilson's just on an absolute tear. He's showing that same level of consistency as Rafa's doing. But of course, with Rafa, he's just been a dominant force the entire time. I don't know how anyone or if anyone can catch him up at this point. But Razy and Wenger still been slithering around that top 5 kind of area, showing that they can still hang with the big boys. And even some other players as well. Base is 10th currently. I expect him to do a little bit better considering how well he was doing at the Stage 2 finals. But there's a lot of players just creeping up here and there, Jackie.
Oh, there is. A lot of subtle changes have started happening with the global rankings and shaking up the upper echelons. It's good to see, right? We had a pretty consistent top 10 throughout our first couple of stages here with the Quake Pro League carry. Finally, in stage 3, we've seen some big boots coming through. A lot of changes. I think that last event in Poland, it shook up the dynamic of the scene, and we're still seeing the ripples from that to today.
We definitely are. There's a few players even to note. We said about Chain where it's a matter of he can do it at stage 2 finals. Can he do it online in stage 3? People normally do really well at the finals, but don't show the progression afterwards. They don't really think about what they could have done and what could have fixed and what they could have changed up. But in the end, players like Chain has been doing really well, has been consistent, has been scrimming a lot and dueling and actually just been on a massive grind. Evelys was another player who did say the same thing, but it is still struggling just that little bit. But, to say the least, it is very hard considering the circumstances.
It is indeed. Now let's take a look at Tox though, in 10th place. Let's actually reel it into our first game of the day here, Harry, is the one we are going to be opening up with, of course. Xron, 18th place in the standings, currently facing off versus Tox, who has pushed himself into the top 10. Just barely, but he's done well, obviously getting himself as 9th seed. That's damn ideal. He's been able to put an absolute shift in recently. The newfound form, which was always such a big question mark. Every week, we'd always say it, right? If it was me, if it was you, if it was ZSX, it would be, what's his form going to be looking like? Is he going to be hitting his shots today? Is the movement going to be there? And recently, we haven't really had to say that because week in, week out, he's been turning up to the server and looking damn fierce. And that's worrying because I feel like for Zron, he's hit a little bit of a slump and it's damn uncharacteristic of him.
Yeah, for Haron now, this is the worst time for him to play against Tox. We said it back in week 3. Tox has been looking very good. Sometimes he is, sometimes he isn't. But it's his speed, his additional speed he's had compared to before, but his ability to adapt much easier compared to what he was like before. He's clearly done his research, clearly gone through all the VODs to see what he's doing wrong, because it probably got to a point for him where he's thinking to himself, it's clearly him. He needs to really fix a lot of the mistakes he's been making. He's been heavily doing his research just to make sure he can fix everything that needs to be done, because he doesn't want to be one of those players battling out, from the relegation kind of zone. But it seems like everything he's done so far has paid off massively.
Oh, yeah. Let's actually get into the veto for this opening series then, Xron versus Tox. It'll give us a bit more of a look into the insight of this one. Curious to see how the champion picks could actually affect it here, Harry.
I'm quite surprised to see Awoken manage to slip in there for Tox, as it is one of his better maps, and he will be playing the sort of that. But even in Blood Covenant, Haron really needs to show what he can do here, because at this point in time, he's lost almost every match, if not every match in the season throughout an entire stage. And he needs to bring something back, some kind of flair. And I feel like he needs to at least 3-0 or 2-1 every single one of his opponents to even get away from that relegation spot. But then again, we'll have to see what happens. But I feel bad for Haron at this point, because for Tox, I feel like he could have a field day with his match, especially with Blood Covenant and Awoken to start off with.
Oh, yeah. And talking to the champions alone, this is going to be very movement heavy. So open it up. We have the light mirror matchup of a Nyx facing off versus Athena. Zron's pretty damn nutty on the Athena. He's proven that before. He's very quick, very good understanding of when to use the grapple aggressively and defensively. Moving on, it's Sorlag versus Strog. So obviously on Awoken, that's going to be absolutely outrageous, Harry. The sheer speed of that one is going to get our hearts pounding.
Yeah, that's going to be quite a crazy one to say the least. But Tox loves his old speedy matches, doesn't he? He's one of those players. He loves to thrive on momentum one way or another. And I'm sure he will if he does get those first couple of frags on the board. And for the last one of Ruins, it will be that Ranger versus Anarchy. Again, another one, we know how much Tox loves Anarchy. So if it is 1-1 or it comes to a tie and it will be going to that map 3, which it will do anyway, then I'm sure Tox may have a field day.
I wouldn't be surprised. And it seems like we're almost ready to get underway with this matchup. Hopefully, a banger to kick us off. It normally is high octane. The picks they've gone for do lean into that. I am curious of that last map, though. Ruins, Ranger. I don't know, man. I feel like the orb's quite limited, really, more so on Sarnath than any other map. I don't know how much it's going to be beneficial for him. There's a few little cheeky positions where you can pull it out to actually get himself away. But that third map could be a bit of a blip. Blood Covenant is going to be the banger of the series for me. I think we're starting with the main course, Harry.
Yeah, you know, normally you do start with a star, but it will be the main course indeed. Ruins could be maybe the dessert to end things, depending on how Haran plays. And I think this first map is going to be the stepping stone to see how exactly it's going to react, and it could shape up how the series turns out.
Potentially, but it looks like we are ready to kick this one off as we're going into our opening game of the night. Let's see who's going to be walking away as the victor, who'll be left in the dust.
Yeah, Haran already managed to get that heavy. He is holding the top rockers at this moment in time. Just trying to feel Tox out at this point, and he's trying to get the info we need, but Haran decides to back away for the time being and see if he can get a nice cheeky flank going.
Tox, early little bit of tickling done with the LG, just to kick things off with a small friendly hello in the server. Nothing too much to write home about just yet. He's going to be needing to grind out those hourglasses as well. That's the one beneficial thing, obviously, with that Athena, Harry. She can deny all of those pickups to keep Tox ghost waterless for hours.
Yeah, the movement and speed is just ridiculous. And if you play against a really good Athena, then, you know, you're going to have a bad day at this point in time. But Haran just missed the second round, but it's good. The LG out. Tox is just on a sliver of health as he manages to back away for the time being. Can he finish him off? Yes, he will. That was a great rail there by Haran.
Yeah, nice adjustment. Good weapon prioritization around the corner. That's not ideal at all, though. Tri-Volt to the face, hitting him with everything he's got. It could have been the frag there for Tox. But unfortunately, he wasn't able to follow it up. Xron dips out, gets away! Oh, and comes in with something absolutely disgusting. Not only will he take the heavy, but he'll take pride in that railgun frag.
Haran realizes at this late stage into the Quake Pro League, he needs to get something going here. And he's been really impressive during this first course of the map, but then again, can he actually continue to show this as Tox is already trying to pick him off just a little bit here and there, but the LGs do come through, barely misses that rail once more, but does get one rocket off in the end, and misses the second rail, but is only on 46 HP. Haran sure needs to back off for the time being. We'll heal up with the green and the mega.
Ooh, it's a bit of a rail off. Unfortunately for them, they're not quite connecting onto each other, and Xron's been able to dip out of there using one of his grapples. Paranoid about the push coming from the rear, does adjust with the rockets and try and slap one directly into the face of the Swedish menace that is chasing him. Creates a little bit of space for now, Harry. Finds him close over by the porter, though. Grabs the hourglasses to deny them, and also replenish that grapple, so he's got the extra bit of mobility going forward. Quite a bit of action in the first 3 minutes of the game here.
Yeah, some interesting passive aggression here. Both of them being very cautious, but being quite aggressive with their decision making on how they want to pass things out. But it managed to get the first rail again. It gets the second one. Will he get the third? No, just goes to barely manage to get away for the time being. As Tox on such a small amount of stack here. And Haran is trying his best to hunt him down. And will he? No, he won't actually manage to get away just barely once more. And Haran is just trying to find out where exactly he is. We'll find him now. Will he get that rail off? No, he won't. Just barely misses him, but Tox just barely manages to fight for another day.
Good bits of poke damage. Xron's establishing so much map control as well. The rotations are just dominant. He's getting all of the major items that he wants. Now, finally, he's coming off a little bit worse for wear, taking a ton of damage from these long-range firefights. But he does retreat. Isn't going to overcommit. He's still got his grapple hook. He's still got those hourglasses as well to put himself back into a normal position. And he's completely evaded Tox, not giving him the opening opportunity to get that first frag. The rail could have been splendid. That was quite cheeky stuff from Tox, and that's even better, Harry. He's gone all in for that. Lovely placement with the rails and a bit of a tickle with the lightning to finish him off.
Yeah, that was a great play there from Tox, as you saw. But at least Haran managed to burn the heavy for the time being, just to had a little bit of injury, but maybe not enough. But Tox just been caught off guard there as he just missed that first rail, but surely he has to back off for the time being. Yes, he will, but even then, Haran is backing off again, but we'll be getting ready for the next heavy as we go in with only 6 minutes left remaining so far.
Xron starting to chase him down now. Tox limited on ammunition. One rocket, one rail. It's not going to be ideal for him, so he does need to try and make his move to at least bolster up his arsenal a little bit more. Right now, just trying to dart around and avoid Xron being able to drop onto him. He's got the audio cues. He's doing a good job of wasting time. So he could potentially come back in for a frag a little bit later on into this one. Not too worried. Using the Ghost Walk a bit more aggressively here. Sets himself up to watch over the heavy. Taking a ton of damage on this engagement, though, and he's not getting the shots off.
Yeah, it was barely just a couple shots there, which he missed. And at that point in time, that would have been a great time for him to have a rail. But he did run out of ammo, but at least he's replenished again. And has 10 on the board, but Tox is still quite weak. He's keeping Huron on his toes, just keeping him guessing, just making sure that he doesn't become too predictable at this point in time. But he does have to Ghost Walk once more if he does put himself in another bad scenario. But as we see there, Huron is just trying to bait him a little bit more, but the LGs are looking very good from Huron, but Tox just backs off. Does get one rail off, gets the second one, but will even try and get the third. As he needs at least 2 rails. He's on 19 HP. Surely he's got to get away, but runs all over him with that LG. Great stuff from him and increases his lead 3-1.
Yeah, that is rough for Tox. He needed to make like a banana-based dessert and split Harry. Instead, he stayed around for too long and got absolutely annihilated by the lightning gun of Xron, falling to pieces. Now 6 minutes into the game, it's a 2-frag advantage for the superstar of Xron. He's still got that rail in hand, and he is chunking the Swede with it, leaving Tox quite lifeless once more, fighting for control of the major items. He does knock him off. He forced it out the Ghost Walk, Harry. He couldn't survive for it. Swoops in like Spider-Man to steal the glory and the mega, and he's walked away with another frag.
My goodness, you couldn't make that, could you? I mean, gets another frag just to make things worse. For Tox at this point. Not the greatest start for him here, but Huron has always been known how great his rails were, and he's got one. He's maybe thinking of trying to get the second, but he doesn't want to take the risk. He's in a great spot in this moment in time. He has no reason to start giving up his map positioning and his lead, as you can see there, but gets another green. Managed to stack up a little bit more, but he's after blood and managed to finish off Tox nicely. Fantastic stuff from him.
God damn. He is doing incredibly well at the minute. Punishing. Really starting to prove the level of worth he has. How has he gotten away with this? Harry, 5 HP. He's stolen the frag. That is just madness.
You couldn't make this up, really, could you? 5 HP, and he still managed to barely survive. But look at his stack now. He is stacked to the eyeballs at this point. And it's just not making it a field day for Tox. It's pretty much Huron's playground at this moment in time. Not giving him any room to breathe here. And if he gets this next rail off, it's just going to make things worse. Managed to get one. Will he go for the seconds? No, he doesn't, sadly. But he's already done enough damage. But Tox is trying his best to chase him down. But managed to get the first one. Will he get the second? Almost goes off the map there. And will be getting that heavy and manages to get away with it as well.
It's just disgusting. Huron is whipping out on the server tonight. Quick flick over on towards Tox as well, leaving him broken and bloodied as he has to limp his way across the map. Still so far behind on the frag zone. There just really isn't much time left to work with into this opening map. And he's also going to get completely jibbed. Harry left as a bottle of ketchup on the floor.
And again, more rails from Huron. Beautiful stuff from him. Just leaving no room for error at this point. And this is a different version of Huron we've seen before. But he will be thinking about that next map, which will be Awoken for Tox. His map pick and one of his better maps as well. But he's not going to be feeling it after this first map. It's been pretty much dominated at this stage. It's quite strange considering we said about the consistency. But it is only one map at the end of the day. The only problem for Tox now is that he needs to try and find 6 frags, which is doable, but extremely difficult at the same time, especially if Huron plays the cat and mouse game.
Oh, yeah. And he's so efficient at it. He's on the ideal champion for it, as well, as you can hear by his screams as he launches himself around the place. Even with Tox's sheer speed, he can't catch up with it. Huron is just too quick, and this one's way too far gone.
Too far indeed, and Tox is still trying to make something happen, but I don't think anything's going to happen to save. At least 40 seconds left remain. It's all but done here. But Huron has got a few rails up in there, gets the LG out, but Tox with that Ghost Walk trying to get away, but managed to get behind him. Lovely rocket and the rail as well to complement things further, but did not help in any way as Huron still managed to win that battle.
Cool. Bust out the LG for the little tickle, just to get him nice and ready for a rail straight to the lips, sending him down to the Nether Realm. 11-3 now with the last 10 seconds into the game. This one is set in stone. Oh, he actually wants to try and end it as a 12-3. Instead, Tox will come through with a final consolation frag to round it out. First map is going to go the way of Chrono on the Athena. We know he is very proficient on that champion, and he has come out swinging both in-game and figuratively tonight.
Yeah, that was beautiful from Haran. I was actually quite surprised. It's a different version of him from what you normally see in the past. But look, even though he's only done 400 less damage in comparison, he's had a lot more of the items. You can see with the 13 heavies and 11 megas, he's just making sure he's on top of him at all times. But Haran is always known for his rails. That's like one of his main talking points. You say about aim skill here and there, but that's what he's known for, the rail especially. But to say the least, it didn't matter anyway because you might have to take him apart left, right, and center and just gave him no room to breathe at that stage.
Yeah, that is true. I think that's one of the bigger things with it, right? Is it's hard to actually stress how much of a blip it's been that Hron's fallen this far down in the overall standings, because before he was doing an awful lot of work. Like, we keep him sort of towards the mid portion at a push. If he dropped any lower, that would then be a surprise. The fact he's in 18th and that's been his seed over the course of this stage, that is quite surprising, because he doesn't deserve to be that far down anywhere near the relegation zone, Harry. In terms of weapon proficiency, he's unreal. His combat skills always been very good. As you said, with the rail, he's a bit of a lunatic. He can really pop open some fantastic things. It's just surprising that obviously it's taken this long to actually see him start having a better display into this season.
Yeah, it's a little bit late, but better late than never. You know, I think Juan, we all know that he's more of an offline player. He's one of those players
Yeah.
where online doesn't really suit him as much. But then again, it's the same for a lot of players. But he's got to a point where he knows he has to adjust at some point, and he has done. Like, even though it's a little bit late, at least he's managing to do it, and he's given Tox definitely a run for his money. And I wouldn't even say that for Tox, you know, we still has on and off form. This could be the first time we've seen him not really on form compared to the previous 5 weeks where it's just been absolutely crazy against some of the top players in Europe from what we've seen so far. But even for Haran, I just still think that, you know, showing his gun skill alone, it's just a little bit too much for Tox here and there. And we know he's more known for his speed. That's why Awoken, especially with the champion picks here, could really help.
Yeah, I mean, you're on the slow lag, right? That big girl moves quick. That's one of the things she is quite proficient at. Hopefully, that is going to be a bit of a lifeline thrown his way. It's also mapped to a lot more combat focus. You know, it's much tighter. There's not as much opportunity for you to play that sort of cat and mouse game. That was the ideal scenario on a Blood Covenant where it's an Athena versus Nyx, right? As soon as you get a frag lead, in reality, if he wanted to, he could have just ran the entire time. So luckily here, it will be a bit more of a backyard bust up. Both of them very speedy champions as well. Strogan peaking on coming out for Xron. Again, a champ that he's no stranger to, and he can play to a high level. This one could be quite an exciting affair. Obviously, a lot more focus around the speed. Definitely think that, as you said, the champion picks support Tox a bit more. You know, Nyx can be proficient, but it just didn't look like it was working for him then. He never had a chance to find any dominance. Obviously, light versus light matchup. As soon as you start to lose that lead early, it's a landslide. It takes so much for you to get back into control.
Yeah, with Nyx, it's all about the ghost walks and the hourglasses and keeping that map control. But it's very difficult against an Athena, like you said, with the speed and the agility she has. It's very, very difficult to just not keep map control, but just keep some of the items here and there. And you saw he had quite a few issues with that. But, you know, he hasn't really got, you know, much to say here because you've got Strog versus Solar, you know, two champions, which you said before, very tanky, very speedy as well. So the top mid control is going to be extremely important for both these players, but it depends on what happens at the start. Who's going to get that first frag? Who's going to keep them on spawn around the kind of LG area going towards that mega? You know, who's going to keep the spawn killing and the spawn pressure a lot more than their opponent? It's going to be a good one, but we've seen that Tox, it's just been phenomenal every time he plays on Awoken. He just seems like he adapts to his opponent so quickly within the first 3 or 4 minutes, but by then he just runs away with it. But the way Haron's playing now seems to be a different version for what we've seen in previous weeks. So Tox, even though it is his map pick and one of his better maps, he may have a few issues going into this.
Oh yeah, I think this is still going to be a tight affair no matter what. It's not really stacked in one side or the other for me. I think it is just going to be close. Awoken is such a volatile map in the sense that obviously everyone seems so well versed in it. A lot of the players in the Pro League all seem like they have an absolute field day when we have this get through on the veto. So many people seem so proficient on it that it's worrying because it's never easy to call. And obviously it is a lot more aggressive. We're going to be seeing quite a few pints of blood being spilt this time around, Harry, as we do start to get into this one. We're going to be getting underway very shortly here. Xron taking on Tox in our second map in this series. Xron, one map up after winning over on Blood. It was a damn dominant affair to kick us off. Does he have the ability to keep that going, though, and actually take this as a 2-0 already in the series?
I really think he can if he keeps up the way he was playing that last map. If he can, then I think he should be able to do a fantastic job going into this because Xron desperately needs a win on the board. I don't think he's had a win this season. So could this be the first series he actually wins? And we're going to find out as we head into map number 2 where Xron pretty much dominated that first map. But can he do the same on the second one? Only time will tell.
Well, we are into this one. So let's find out as we kick it off over on Awoken. 15 seconds into the game, Tox already trying to track this man down as he starts to amp up the ante, launching him straight up towards middle, spitting all over Xron. That is not very nice at all.
A bit disgusting to say the least, but Tox, it doesn't matter anyway. It got him that first frag going forward, and he will be picking up that Mega. Is going to try and get it in time for the Heavy 2, which he will do shortly. Just going to delay things just a little bit, just to keep on guessing, but I think Xron managed to hear that audio cue anyway, just because he was a little bit too close. But Tox now got the stack and the top mid control. He's trying to keep it away for the time being, but managed to destroy the Pika. Waiting for him to go through the telly. But so far, so good for Tox. A different version from what we've seen earlier on in the first map.
The corner with the LG, both of them battling over control of the Mega. It has come up, but you wouldn't notice it as it's been stripped straight off of Xron instantly. So much damage connected onto him as Tox, bouncing around like a lunatic with the rail, but it will not matter. Xron, he busts out the fly swatter, puts that lizard down.
He certainly did indeed. Xron with another nice rail there. This is like that first frag hasn't affected his mentality too much as Tox is already top mid. Xron, a little bit of a slip up there, but it's going to try and fight for that top mid control as he sees him trying to go for that Mega. Lets him get it, and he knows that Heavy is coming up shortly, which he managed to pick up now. But this is the main thing. He wants to try and go for that Mega next to keep a routine of the Mega and Heavy back to back. But at this point in time, Xron just waiting for the time being. Just get picked up just a little bit with that shotgun. My man's got the first rocket. Will he get the second one? And in the end, both players managed to trade things out. And 2-all, quite a feisty one to start things off here.
Ooh, this is an awful fight straight back into it as well. Luckily, Tox is able to actually peel ever so slightly ahead, aided by the damage over time that he got off straight onto the face of Xron, melting his skin clean off him. He puts himself in a 3-2 split on the frags. This starts to create a little bit of distance, paranoid about the potential push through the porter. Luckily, he isn't going to be chased down just yet. He needs to listen out for the audio cues, though, as he is close towards Xron. Bit of damage coming through as well, as he'll play a game of peekaboo to at least slow down this big girl.
Xron's just rails has been ridiculous over the last couple of shots. Misses his third one, but will he try and get the fourth one in? He just needs one more, just anything to try and clean him up. And yes, he does. Xron managed to tie things up there. Took a little bit of time, but managed to get things done. But already Toxic trying to finish him off in from the last frag. But my goodness, Xron. Lovely rail from him.
Ooh. My goodness. Quick flicks. Surprised he hasn't busted his wrist, but instead it's going to be Tox busting the face of Xron wide open. 4-4, a lot closer here than what we initially saw in our opening map on Blood. This one really has been a brawl between our two superstars on the server. Pika coming up to cause a little bit of commotion, but it won't matter too much. Just a quick switch back to the rail will try and prove a point for Tox. He's unable to. He had taken so much damage in that time that it was an easy frag to find for Xron. Straight back in, looking for a little bit more. Wants to chain these frags together. It's still close, and actually, he gets overthrown. The adjustment from Tox is pixel perfect, Harry.
I don't even know how Tox managed to get away from that. Even if he picked up the shotgun, it gave him a little bit of leverage, but it just doesn't matter. But Tox with the LG, he's always known for it, but it looks like Xron had better end of the stick there with the heavy now just to make matters worse. But the LG fight does come in again. Tox is just doing his best to go over, oh my goodness, all over him at that point in time, but still trying to push him. But Xron is on 1 HP. Surely he's going to get taken down. Yes, he does, finally. Tox managed to clean things up and get the Mega to help him further.
Goodness. This is absolutely ridiculous, Harry. 12 frags, 6 apiece. We're not even 5 minutes into the game yet, and this has already just been a sight to behold. Awoken normally does provide us with some exciting matches. I think this very well could be one of them. It's nice to see that Tox is instantly bounced back into the series, and this is going to be a bit of a tight affair. Launches himself up towards mid. Nice adjustment and weapon prioritization, though, all the way through that fight, and he's really stuck it to Xron there. He's forced him to fall back, chunked a lot of health clean off him. He's got to slowly make his move to reposition. He's heard him and adjusted accordingly, and he's knocked him out with the slight tap with LG. Oh, Harry, that is not ideal.
No, it's not at all. If there's any way to die, it's definitely not from that ring out. Sadly for him, it's going to make matters worse. Now Tox has the lead, and he's trying to keep Xron at bay. Man's getting the Mega, and he was always going to push him with the LG, but has been railed once. But look at this, so Xron is trying to go for the flank and trying to get the second, but he won't, as Tox is ready for him and has now got the heavy to add salt into the wound, especially with his stacking comparison. So Xron's, which to be fair, isn't too bad, pretty much default at this moment in time. And he's going to try and pressure that Tommy control. He's managed to find one shot, managed to get a second one. Yes, he does. A nice clean frag there from Tox.
It's like, you ever seen those videos of the airports in Spain where it like connects onto a beach and a plane will be like taking off and people are just getting blown into the like the sea on the beach? That's basically what that was. Tox has just started the engines and he's just gone flying off into the into the sea. He's just had enough.
Into the sunset pretty much, isn't it?
Yeah.
He was doing his best, but he just wasn't good enough at that point. Sadly, he was stuck in the corner, but he's still got a little bit of time to try and win this back. He's only 2 frags down, still got 3.5 minutes remaining. But Tox, though, it's so hard. Strong pedestal here. And already in another fight with the LGs. They do cross pass once more, but the Pika gets a nice chunk of damage down for him. It is waiting for him to go through that telly, which he does. Nice little combo from Tox. It's just trying to get one more in, but has to give up on that heavy. He's waiting to try and get that rail, but it doesn't matter. As for one, ooh, that was beautiful. Very cheeky from him.
Hey, you naughty man. Can't be doing that. And now he wants more as well. Unfortunately for him, doesn't fancy wading through a load of gob that's been put on the floor, so he will back off and reposition. Only 1 frag down. Good adjustment there with the audio cue. That was a lovely rocket to stop the warpath that Tox was on. Try bolt out. If those would have connected, it would have been chunking Tox down incredibly low. He's still going through it and actually landing a ton of damage. Tox, has he been feeding himself nitro as he has been exploded?
That was disgusting. Tri-bolt shots there. Every single one made such huge impact. And again, another lovely rail from Xron. At this point in time, there's no stopping this man. I said it earlier, that his rails, that's what he's known for, his gun skill, especially with that weapon. And now, Xron just making matters worse with a 2 frag lead.
Oh, causing mischief right now. This Trickster is up to no good. From the height and angle, try to peer down. He couldn't quite get the shot off. Luckily, just repositioned back over towards the LG spawn. So low, but still trying to fight through until his last breath. Will be finished off by Tox. 1 frag difference between them. Still a few more minutes left to work with into this game. And the battle over the Mega ensues. That's a risky play. You bring out the Pika when you're that close to your demise. Tox still had way more health to work with. He might have been better off just sticking to his guns. Instead, he's gone down and paid the price for that one.
That was a huge risk. The pillar was way too small for him, and plus he had too many angles for Tox to shoot a rocket out. So you saw from there that he had plenty of time. Now again, another beautiful shot from Tox. He's waiting for him to go through the telly. Gets one relic, but Huron get the second. Yes, he does. Even though Tox got one of his own, Huron managed to pull off that second one and managed to gain the lead again. Only a minute spare.
Goodness gracious, Harry. Still 60 seconds left to work with, and Tox is not wasting any time. Straight in as he riddles him with bullets with a HMG. Quick switch to the LG to finish, and now we're tied up 11 apiece. Who will find themselves that 12th frag though? Tox gliding through the air like a gracious manta ray through the ocean. Gets himself back over by the porter exit. Scott turns the corner, ready for action, but unfortunately goes straight into the rail from Xron. That's really going to pack a punch as he's still landing more, and he goes back for the third peak. The reface from this man is full of confidence, and now his face is covered in blood from the frag he's achieved.
Huron's just ridiculous at this moment in time. Every shot is hitting. The over-aggression! Oh! My goodness, what a way to close out this map. Huron is just absolutely just on a tear right now, and I'm worried for now for Tox for map number 3, but Huron, 13-11. If there's one way to close out a map, that was definitely a way to close it out. Huron showing what he's really made of, and you can see from the damage, nearly 1,000 difference between both of these players.
That is absolutely wild, Harry. That wasn't a... I don't know. That was just absolutely ridiculous. I think that is a slobber knocker we have just witnessed. There was spit flying everywhere, and not just from the Sorlag. Both of them were landing ridiculously beautiful punches onto each other. The fact it was so close until Xron just goes into God mode at the end of the game there, rail after rail, the confidence as well to take the reface every single time and just batter Tox out of the server. My goodness.
It was just the repeats, the over-aggression. There is times where you should do it and where you shouldn't do it. And I don't think Tox expected Huron to take such big risks so late into the game. He probably expected more at the start, halfway mark, maybe if he's top mid, or just possibly if he's got a bigger stack. But he just decided, well, if I want to take this map and take the series, then this is the only way he can do it. And he done it in flying colours. Some people may say it's questionable with how he approached it, but he just didn't care. I suppose when you've got that much confidence, it just translates into your gun skill. And then you just saw from there, he's got a completely different mentality from what we've seen in previous weeks. And yeah, Huron, it's a pleasure to see you again. I see you back in the Quake Pro League.
Yeah, man. It's weird because it feels like there's been a Huron-sized hole for so long now, and we needed to see it come back. The crazy bit is, right, if we're looking in terms of play styles and the way they approach the game, Tox and Huron are quite similar. They do like that fast, aggressive, very flashy style of Quake. They are both incredibly proficient with a railgun. They're damn good with the tri-bolt, right? Like all of these things that come into it, it makes sense why that's provided for such a good affair. Fireworks were soaring through the sky there on Awoken. And now finally, unfortunately, we do have to end this series. We can't keep it going forever. And we end up on Ruins of Sarnath. Ranger coming out for Xron, and then an Anarchy pick for Tox. Anarchy, classic, of course. He loves the speed. He loves using that ejection quite aggressively. He's going to be in your face the entire time. For Ranger, the escape potential's there. Obviously, it works out quite well because it is similar to the way that we see Xron approach the game with Athena. It can either be used aggressively or to escape.
Of course, with the range with the orb, you've got the item control and how much easier it is to get, as well as the damage if he's in some kind of close quarters combat. But now with map number 3, can Huron manage to get his first 3-0? Not only just his first win, just to get those additional points into the rankings. But so far, so good. Does get the Mega. Is trying to find out where Tox is, but hasn't got really enough info as of yet. Just making sure he's got the weaponry he needs, but already first fight comes in. The orb doesn't too good, but again, a lovely rail. It seems like it's map 2 all over again.
Howdy's Xron. Straight back into the action. As he sent Tox on the Swedish place program there. Just straight up into orbit, Harry. He's gone. Worked out quite nice. Who needs SpaceX at this point? Let's see if he can try and keep this going, though. It was a beautiful opener. It was very early into the game as well. So there's a lot of potential for this one to, again, be quite a high fragging affair. If it's anything like we saw over on Awoken. The Rockets keeping their distance between them, essentially just a meter stick between them both, so Tox can't start to push up. Does pop the injection. Curious to see if he will try and use that regularly as well, or how he'll take his approach with it. Fighting over control of the Heavy, but it's too little too late of presence coming out from Tox. The Heavy's already gone. They will go 1-1 on the major items split, though. Oh, that's beautiful. Rapid reaction times there for Tox. Honed in on the angle, expecting the push to come in from behind. Xron turns the corner and nearly loses half his face.
One now needs to be extremely careful. He was a little bit tempted to go for that Heavy, but decided to go for the light armor for the time being, which is completely understandable. He wants to get back to his default stack before he gets into any more bouts, but knows exactly where he is. He's just playing it very cautiously at this moment in time. He has no reason to fight back until he catches Tox off guard, but Tox is being very aggressive. He's trying to find anything he can do everywhere he goes. You may have just maybe seen a glimpse of him, but you got to remember, with the Anarchy, even though he's a frag down, he has the speed and the agility to try and keep him at bay and trying to tally up those frags more. But already the rocket jump comes in, and Huron's going to try and finish him off if he can. Tox, will he be able to get away? He won't. He's going to take the fight. And my word, Tox. Beautiful stuff from him to get that last rail to clean things up and equalize the scoreline.
1-1 apiece. Tox up to his old tricks already. Playing for the audio. He'll make his move onto the Heavy and pick it up. There's a 5-second split now between the Mega spawning in. Ron should be ready for it, and he will be. So again, another major item split between these two. The difference is, though, that Tox was ready for the push to come around the corner. Fortunately, doesn't really give him too much of a benefit into this one just yet. Starting to work his way back around. 6 seconds until Heavy's up, so he needs to get there. But this is where our next brawl will take place. Weird dire orb in for the initiations. Not really going to help Ron out too much. It has at least actually forced him back and secured him the Heavy. But it looked a little bit risky for what it was. He'd come out with a ton of damage done, and it's not actually put him into that good of a position, especially when he should have been taken down right then and there. Unfortunately for Tox, he's going to be kicking himself, Harry. Just slightly too little damage done.
That was insane, and Huron cornered himself in such a bad spot. He knew that he wouldn't be able to get away, decided to get those 2 rails, and seems to be perfectly fine afterwards. This is a completely different scenario to what it actually should have been at that moment in time. But as we can see, Huron, both players got a similar stack to say, but now he's just being very cautious. Both these players are playing a completely different game compared to what we saw in Awoken, but it is still quite aggressive. They are hitting the shots, they are getting a lot of damage done, but not as close quarters fights as we saw from there. But Tox managed to clean things up very nicely to finally take the lead.
Good rocket usage that's allowed him to actually get into a dominant position now in game. Rockets railing down as his Hellion Salvo is going to connect. A couple of awkward misses coming through. Xron's brought the fists out.
And Tox seems to be okay for now. Was going to try and fight for that Heavy, but it didn't matter. Huron is going to try and fight back as much as he can. Trying to keep on his toes, puts the inject in. Will he be able to clean him up? Yes, he will. Tox increasing his lead 4-1 now. Huron is in a whole amount of trouble here. He's going to try and fight for that Mega again, but doesn't seem to be the case. But at least he's got a rail and an LG for his troubles to at least keep Tox back for the time being.
Continuously tapping him down. Tox going to be easily able to take him away. The aggression that was coming through from Tox was working out too well for him right now. That one will at least pay off the bills. He goes back in swinging with a shotgun. Lands that punch straight to the face and does overthrow him. And that was just beautiful. Everything was so precise. Oh, that looked so cinematic.
And you could see he was trying to go for the Mega at the same time, but Tox, with a decent spawn net, managed to pick out for himself. But he's trying to bait out, but he's going to try and get the Heavy. But even if he loses it, at least he baits it out. Somehow manages to get away. I thought Tox would possibly Went there for a few more seconds to try and get a shot off, but gets one rail off. Managed to try and go for the second. He's going to leave it for the time being. But Xron is still taking it quite passively. He was quite aggressive at one stage, but he hasn't got the stack to fight back. He's going to be waiting for the time being, but this is definitely a moment for Tox to try and clean house, which he will do with a beautiful LG to manage to increase the lead once more, 6-3.
Well, 4 minutes of this duel remaining to decide whether or not if it is going to be a full 3-0 for Xron, or if it is going to be Tox that will walk away with a 2-1 split. Does get the rocket off to at least put this man to bed once again, as the Ranger will go down. Rocketed straight through the earth. Good adjustment there from Tox as well to not only get the Beggar, but prepared for the push coming through from the Dire Orb. Gets the rocket down to do a ton of damage onto Xron, and leaving him really quite close to his demise here. Lovely vertical rocket jump to push himself back through as well, using the sheer thrust. That one was a bit ambitious, but I like the idea.
It's been quite optimistic. You were definitely right there, but sadly it wasn't to be. As Tox, you can see, is really feeling himself. A little bit late into the series, but better late than never, as you heard from there. Xron managed to pick up that Mega. Tox is waiting to see exactly where he is, but doesn't realise that he's actually not too far above him, but may have to give up the Heavy here. Will he actually go for it himself? He's going to go for the LG anyway. Baits out that Heavy. Now it's beautiful from Tox. Great play from him. Great decision making as well. He could have easily gone for that Heavy, but decided to bait it out anyway. And Xron fell for that bait. But beautiful rocket. He's going to try and clean up with the rail. He's going to get the rocket back out. One more possibly. And manages to clean things up. Beautiful.
Tox is really looking to prove a point here. He went for the Anarchy pick, and he certainly is raising absolute hell. He's got such a huge frag lead against Xron at the minute. Pushing back in to look to see if he can finish him off with an LG, but he won't need to. He's got a railgun, and he's incredibly proficient with the weapon. Punishes Xron in close range combat. Could actually get himself an 11th, as it all went a bit wrong.
Yeah, I think Xron's realised he's not got enough time, not got enough anything on his plate to maybe deal with Tox's giving in this past game. But do you know what? Xron did his best. He managed to do everything he could, but it just wasn't to be. Tox, we saw the on-form Tox, but it just a little bit late into the series when it's a map 3. But we also saw some great rails from him earlier on throughout the course of the process. But Xron just had not enough stamina, not enough fuel left in the tank. But yeah, that was a great way to close things out. But that map 2 though earlier, it's still barcoded into my mind.
Goodness, Harry. The likelihood of anything really happening here for Xron is way too far gone. I mean, hopefully he can at least give us some moments to remember on this final map, as this series has already had so much weight to it. It's been damn good from start to finish. Xron has really came out swinging tonight, and at least this is going to be a win under his belt this season. Oh, the cheeky injection to keep himself alive. Basically in the afterlife there already. Tox will finally go down. With only 30 seconds remaining, it really is just some frags for the sake of it.
Yep, frags and nothing more. It's way too late for Xron to make any kind of comeback here. And I like the little rail off, but, you know, he's just pretty much standing still for the time being. Tox managed to finish things up, made things a little bit easier for him with 15 seconds left on the clock. 12-4 for Tox. And even then, it's even though a little bit late. We've seen the old Tox, but it's a shame we didn't see it in the first 2 maps.
Yeah. No, it was good to see him at least coming out, you know, playing to that level that we kind of expect, because we know he's been able to do it. Historically, it's always been the heights that he can hit. Obviously, it's been a little bit fewer and far between over the course of stage 1 and 2. Stage 3, he's been absolutely banging it. He's been looking way more like his old self again, a lot of the way he approaches the games, and the fact that he's been having those good early game starts and being able to see that through the entire time. A fun series here, but the limelight obviously has to go to Xron, being able to 2-1 it. And really, this is now going to be where we basically have to take that storyline we've had about Tox for a while, put it on him, Harry. Is this the start of something new? I'd hope that we see a lot more of this again, because we know he can be an absolute lanimal. Obviously, the only issue with that is right now, everything that's going on, you know, we're not really getting to see that at the minute. online, we need to see that same level of aggression that's coming out from him because he is so talented. We just need to see it consistently.
Yeah, it was a bit strange. It took into map 3 to see the Tox we already know, like in terms of his high skill level and actually how he actually progresses. It was a little bit strange, but you know, maybe it's because he didn't warm up enough. Maybe he hasn't grinded a little bit during the day before he entered into this match. It did look that way, but maybe it's more the fact that Haron just made him feel a little bit uncomfortable in some of the situations and some of the scenarios he was placed in on certain parts of the map, whilst on certain areas where Haron had that item control. But you saw that Haron had to take such big, big risks in order to just get not just anything going, but just to scrape some maps here and there. The first map was quite dominant, but the second one, you saw the risks he took on the final 2 maps with the rails he was putting in play. It was ridiculous. So I'll say Tox is still fine. He's still playing quite consistent. It was just Haron seemed a little bit more with it today compared to what he was like on previous weeks.
Yeah, I probably agree with you. Both of them had their highlight moments. Awoken, for a start, if you missed it, I'd go back and watch that one on the VOD, as that was a bit of a banger. Everything that happened there was absolutely fantastic. Some of the frags were just incredible. Everyone played their hearts out. But that is the end of that series. It is From that walks away with a 2-1 win over the Swedish superstar in Tox. Still more to come tonight, though. Of course, 7 more games will be going on here in week 8 of the Quake Pro League as we grind our way through stage 3. Up next after the break will be Saigib taking on Zeneku. You won't want to miss it. Let's see if the Australian All-Star can stop the ever-growing Punisher from North America that has really been grinding his way up the rankings. That is going to be up after the break.